Day 5 at sea. I've ingratiated myself with the locals and established lucrative trade relations. The Grey Isles are as promising a business opportunity as they are a splendid reprieve from the rat race of life. Day 12 at sea. Nominal upgrades to my boat allow me to sail further out into yet unexplored regions, but the long distances means occasionally traveling in the dark, and these waters have a way of playing tricks on the mind. Day 36. This place is a marvel of aquatic wonders. A gibbous moon overhead and a breathtaking expanse of bioluminescence beneath. Nature can be so endearing when not positively indifferent to the concepts of personal space and non-aggression. Working alongside the scientists and traders stationed here meets all of our ends. They require evidence of rare fish specimens, and I'm not one to turn my nose up at easy money, even if some of the specimens are more unnerving than I'd care for. Day 40. I'm lucky to even be able to write this down. Last night I was brushed by mortality in the most terrifying manner. Though I know not the precise aspect or nature of the creature that attacked my vessel, I know that it was unlike any marine life form I've henceforth seen or of which I've been informed by the citizenry. Perhaps it was my own fault. I've grown so familiar with the landscape that I've been risking later and later trawls. The pay is well worth the decreased visibility, but I cannot escape the feeling that within that illimitable darkness there lurks something conscious and sinister. Day 54. I feel positively invincible. The business's success has allowed me to improve the boat's hull, storage space, rods, reels, and motor power. The locals have dissuaded me of any notions of eldritch or unnatural happenings in the water. They assure me that any anomalies I may find are owed to the arrival of the oil rig, whose operator spared no time in violating the fault line beneath them. I would join the residents of the Marrow in their protestations, if I weren't so green at the thought of the rig workers' good business sense. Day 61. My travels have taken me to exotic and even dangerous locations in the past, but navigating the waters of the Grey Isles has proven the most peculiar combination of serene and distressing. I am truly privileged to be able to call this beautiful place home, to make a living among these salty winds, and to glimpse aquatic species of which even the most imaginative authors of decades past could not conceive. I have, however, in recent days begun to measure my enthusiasm, since the locals seem to be abusing my trust, requesting strange trades and even stranger marine samples for purposes I suspect are of the most foul and unsavory taste. Day 77. Strangers speak as if they know me, or as if I should know them. The artifacts and obelisks scattered across these waters carry a poignant sense of both dread and familiarity. I have come to the realization that I may be losing my mind. That, somewhere along the way, whether it be from the noxious chasm reaped by the oil rig or from the occult rewards granted to me by the residents of the Isles, I have changed. Changed, not into the successful entrepreneur I once celebrated, but into the unwitting agent of some odious and malignant power, the precise bearing of which cannot be put to writing. Day 95. I am damned. Damned to be a speck in this filthy pond. Damned to inch closer and closer to the edge of the bowl, only to awake with a new scar each morning. Not a physical wound, but a scar on my soul. For each time I awake with no memory of the previous night, I can feel how my mind has been robbed of its quiet. My sanity is now a whirlpool, spiraling ever further out of control, downwards into fathomless depths scarcely imagined, and I am impotent against the current. This is my placid island of ignorance, amid black seas of infinity, and it was not meant that I should voyage far. Welcome to Dredge, a fishing simulator in the same way Dead Space is a maintenance simulator. The environment, NPCs, and fish all appear unassuming at first, but once you've got the hang of the basic gameplay loop, you'll find there's more to this world than mere busywork and small talk. It all starts with an aberration, a deformed specimen the local fishmonger wants for unknown reasons. The handkerchief it coughs up is considered a relic, although not one of the 5 relics instrumental in completing the game. The handkerchief leads you to Blackstone Isle, where a mysterious NPC called the Collector takes it off your hands and rewards you with the Dredge crane, a piece of equipment you'll need in order to collect the 5 relics he really wants. And so begins your campaign. Catch fish, dredge loot, sell your stock, trade with locals, and, most intriguingly, broaden your understanding of the Grey Isles. Shipwrecks and shady characters all contribute to a sense of history and mystery, as though the idyll of this archipelago hides a dangerous and potentially frightening secret beneath its surface. Messages in bottles serve as puzzle pieces, shedding light on the history of relationships long lost to the fog of time. Speaking of the fog, the locals warn me to stay away from it. The way they talk about it leads me to believe that they've either had some unfortunate experience sailing in the dark themselves, or, more likely, that they've simply never felt the unbridled satisfaction of a good nighttime grind. Do you see meth addicts arguing for why they should stop foraging just because the clock has passed a certain time? No. If anything, they become rhetorical experts just to explain to you, a non-grinder, why they need their meth now more than ever. And it is in the spirit of my fellow grinders that I fish. Also, this game has a Tetris inventory system, and yes, it is just as satisfying as in Deus Ex and Resident Evil. So sit back, relax, and revel in the awe of all the fish species you didn't see in the aquarium, as I take you on a journey of discovery, darkness, deep waters, and delirium. Much like real life, sleep is optional. Unlike real life, time only moves forward when I do. One could take this as a metaphor for how time flies when we're having fun, but I choose to interpret it as confirmation of solipsism. Time only moves when I do because I am the chosen one and you're all just side characters in my story. This also explains how sentient creatures only seem to respond to events that directly pertain to me and don't develop unless I am engaging with them. For example, early on in my playthrough, I found a cute dog and committed to finding it a good home. Naturally, that objective took a back seat to fishing, so I ended up finishing the entire game before realizing I was supposed to drop him off at the cosplayer just around the corner. This animal spent over 200 days in my storage vault. That is not a dog, it is the thing. And all I got for delivering him, was a research part, which is about as useful to me at this point as a snorkel is to an astronaut. In the early game, however, research parts are essential for unlocking newer and fancier equipment in order to maximize productivity. Some NPC dialogue chains go nowhere, but some will eventually unlock new goals and advance the story. So, if you're like me and care more about sailing the high seas for booty instead of interacting with other humans, just know that you could be locked out of significant upgrades if you don't at least fast forward through conversations. You could start the day off intending to catch some fish. A specific type of fish maybe. A blackfin tuna perhaps. But inevitably,
thou shalt get sidetracked by bullshit every goddamn time.
There are so many opportunities out there waiting for you. Opportunities for rare loot, networking, exploration, and, naturally, close encounters of the worst kind. It's always nice to see a giant tentacle rise out of the water only for a whale to breach and chow it in one bite. Until you really need the whale and he's nowhere to be found. They told me fishing would be relaxing. Therapeutic even. I am literally fighting for my life. Investigating shipwrecks dotted around the Grey Isles could provide you with loot or even unique engines not available in the store. But it could also get you crushed by a mimic crab just minding its own business. And how are you to tell the difference? Just memorize the map, it's not that hard. Staying safe is simple. Only travel during daylight hours, get sufficient sleep to keep your panic level down, and always keep land in sight. Because if this is your view, it may already be too late. There are quite a few NPCs to remember, but don't worry, all of their quests and rewards are highly intuitive. The painter can customize our boat and install flags for us. The trader underpays us for finding trinkets lost to the sea. The mysterious collector gives us special abilities for finding his relics, and we get the camera from the photographer. Can you guess who gives us access to explosives? That's right, the whaler! But talk about ludonarrative dissonance, you don't even get the chance to use it on them. The only things you're allowed to blow up are debris piles blocking your way. Even if I'm not allowed to follow in the whaler's footsteps, I can think of plenty more productive ways to use that TNT than on harmless rocks. The collector's rewards are the real prizes anyway. The first relic returned will see him bestow upon us the gift of haste, a speed boost which means I could potentially double my rat tail intake, so long as I don't overheat the engine. Speed is essential because as long as the clock is ticking, the fish in your cargo are decaying. I learned this the hard way when, upon gathering a fangtooth for a nice hooded man who lived on a secluded island nearby, I arrived at his rock step in order to deliver the specimen, only to find it had turned to rot. Once this happens, the fish is reduced to a single inventory space and retains about as much value as skin lotion to a Chernobyl survivor. And you'd better hope your steering skills are up to scratch because even the slightest contact with solid objects means sustaining hull damage, potentially disabling your equipment and casting some of your cargo overboard. It is true. Some nights, in my haste to return to safety after nightfall, I crashed into rocks that I assure you, Your Honor, were not there before and will not be there afterwards. If your lines are damaged, you lose the ability to reel fish in, making the whole process highly inefficient. If your engines are damaged, it will result in a significant speed reduction, even with haste. And if you're unlucky enough to lose a quest-specific fish overboard because a rock materialized out of thin air in front of you, you would be forgiven for a light bout of hysterics. But Lumo, why would rocks appear out of nowhere in the first place? What kind of fishing game is this? I'm glad you asked, cooperative viewer. And that brings us to the panic system. You see, my mortal and primitive brain simply cannot handle the stress placed on it by the eldritch water vapor endemic to the Grey Isles at night. Going fishing in the dark means exposing myself to a monstrous miasma that calls forth the most sickening feelings and embarrassing memories of school presentations past, like a Faustian fist squeezing my supple, sponge-like being of its sanity. This will necessarily have a snowball effect, as continuing to work through the madness only makes matters worse. As soon as that eye opens, panic is triggered, and any slightly unpleasant stimulus only adds to the mania. Once, for example, I freaked out while a devil manta was chasing me and incidentally wrecked my motors, leaving me forced to shamble over to a dock at early game speed, which, suffice it to say, is infuriating after having grown accustomed to the upgraded engine speed. Phantom rocks are only a problem in 2 of the game's 6 regions. Most of the time, you'll be dealing with biome-specific wildlife which each have their own unique ways of messing up your mojo. Sailing around in the daytime with high panic is a guarantee that something will try to rock your boat. Whether it's the ghost of Jaws taunting you for not having a big enough boat, a water plume with a mind of its own threatening your bottom line, or hordes of Hitchcock's birds plundering your cargo, you'll end up regretting that sleep you sacrificed in order to nab just one more firefly squid. This is because the denizens of these nefarious depths can smell your fear, and it smells like freshly marinated barbecue. Having successfully escaped the devil manta on several occasions by simply pulling into a dock, I, naively, believed that any such menu interaction made me invulnerable to damage. I was under the impression that these sea monsters cannot harm my vessel once I've entered a contextual menu. I was wrong. But this did not dissuade me from hitting my mahi-mahi quota, and so onwards I went, to new horizons and ever more perilous encounters, with a single goal in the back of my mind: take 0 damage. Because, frustratingly, there is no way of telling which block in my inventory will absorb the hit. If RNGesus decides that the damage I just sustained goes to my equipment, there is no way to fix it until I reach a dock. Hull repair kits are expensive and only unlocked later in the game, so any HP lost could result in a failure cascade that sees my precious booty cast asunder and my state-of-the-art trawler wrecked. But even playing perfectly will not save you from inconvenience, as you have limited inventory space and a virtually unlimited ocean of fish to catch. I'd like you to imagine, if you would, the rage you might experience when, at the tail end of a bountiful haul, you find a secret cave behind a waterfall, home to a never-before-seen species, only to be unable to fit it in your cargo because not only is your hull filled to the brim with lower life forms you've caught hundreds of times over already, but also because the inventory system cannot fathom the concept of replacing more than one item if the blocks are contested. In keeping with the Lovecraftian undercurrent at play, I would sacrifice a child for this oarfish, but the game, reminding me of the futility of my accomplishments, will not allow it. Proper resource management is essential. If you want to catch more fish, you'll need to upgrade your boat. If you can't afford to upgrade your boat, catch more fish and dredge more resources. If you still don't have enough money, invest in crab pots. They are the only means available to accrue a passive income and are easily the best investment you'll make early on. If your storage is getting too full, consider selling resources you could find more of later. If your equipment is not as effective as you'd like it to be, invest research parts into unlocking newer, sexier equipment. Your old fishing rods will understand. It's just business at the end of the day. Remember, when you select Pick Up your crab pot, the game automatically places each specimen in your cargo and the crab pot itself, provided there's enough space for it. But what you must always keep in mind is that the satanic semi-sentient spirit within the game's code does not know how to manage Tetris inventories, and so may preclude you from storing the crab pot on the spot for no other reason than the AI's own pathetic limitations. This can be quite the nuisance, so be sure to check if there really is no available space for the crab pot before departing, or risk coming back to a tattered empty box on your next trip through the area. Needless to say, you've got a lot of chainsaws to juggle in Dredge, and if you ever find yourself bored or unoccupied, you likely only have yourself to blame. After all, you could be reading. No, seriously, you can collect books which offer passive buffs to your character, giving you bonuses to fishing speed or discounts in the store depending on which ones you find first. Various NPCs grant you books for completing their questlines, but the real good shit you get from the cultists living in isolation around the archipelago. After you deliver each of them 3 specific fish, in which they merrily indulge, they give you some of the best books to read, which makes going out of your way for them early on a viable option, provided you have the equipment necessary to catch the fish they want. Because this game offers the player so much freedom in how you approach objectives, you may very well find yourself in a situation where you only get certain rewards long after they were of any value to you. In my case, I had a handful of quests I only completed after achieving the main ending cutscene, meaning I now got flooded with loot that made about as much difference to my gameplay as any iceberg did to the Titanic. I will avenge you, Grandpa. On my first playthrough, I was pleasantly surprised at how much I was getting out of each fishing run, in each region, despite having no clue what I was doing. You have no choice but to begin the game at the Marrows, but whenever you're ready, you can progress to any corner of the map you please. I just so happened to venture outwards towards the Twisted Strand first, then to Stellar Basin, then the Oil Rig, then Gale Cliffs, then Devil's Spine, and finally the Pale Reach. Although I could tell I was missing equipment necessary to complete certain objectives, the fundamental gameplay loop is so enjoyable that I was only really barred from making progress at the pace that I wanted. I was, at no point, prevented from having fun. Throughout your playtime, you're going to have to make hard choices, not the least of which is what equipment you want installed at any given moment. Since you could have the anti-tangle rod installed, you could have the basic trawl net installed, you could have the gunk siphon installed, you could have the fathomless winch installed, and you could have the harvesting platform installed. But you can't have them all installed at the same time. You could either go fishing in the mangrove swamps of the Twisted Strand, or the volcanic crevices of the Devil's Spine, or the chilly cliffs of the Pale Reach, but until the very late game, you will not be able to have the prerequisite equipment installed all at once. This means factoring in stall times and different equipment costs into every trip you take, because some pieces take hours to install and even more time spent trawling to afford. But why does time even matter? That ticker at the top of the screen isn't actually counting down to something, is it? Would you be more interested if I said yes? No, the timer doesn't mean anything. It's just there to track your progress and contribute to a sense of immersion, as, of course, being human means you need to sleep, and running an operation like this means spending time on mundane parts of the job. What's nice about Dredge is that you really can take it at your own pace. Whether the experience is therapeutic and productive, or nail-biting and sanity-draining is entirely up to you. No one is forcing you to make a 3 a.m. run to catch a collapsed viperfish. But you will get more money for it. No one is forcing you to venture out into the fog. In fact, they actively advise against it. Play it safe, and you'll only ever face real threats on the odd occasion that you happen to have some space left in your cargo and wanted to fit in an extra eel, or when you misjudged how much time you had to return to home base and made the trek at night, simply begging to be molested by the denizens of the dark. So the question is, where does the challenge come in? How do I not get bored after hours of zero-risk fishing? How does the game retain its fun factor on repeat playthroughs? I'm so glad you asked. Since there is only one fixed difficulty setting, and it offers about as much danger as a dentist appointment, my challenges are self-imposed and only more rewarding for it. You see, the fact that that counter is there at all triggers something deep and primordial in the speedrunner within me. Those weeks I spent endeavoring to break into the top 3 for the Uncharted The Lost Legacy glitchless category were not in vain. However, that experience also rewired my brain to seek out ruthless efficiency in everything from bedroom activities to a harmless fishing sim that offers no prize for beating it in a timely manner. No matter how quickly you reach the climax, the same sense of dejected deflation will await you each time. The only consolation is the pitiable pat on the shoulder you'll get from your friends after detailing how fast you achieved it. What was I talking about again? Ruthless efficiency means using every day, every minute, every turn of the wheel to my advantage. It means nailing the fishing minigame to maximize trophy catches. It means completing NPC fetch quests without hesitation. It means reading books, risking digestion, bombing the wildlife, hallucinating in vivid detail, and defying death every night in order to make more money. When I say ruthless efficiency, I mean choosing to forego installing lights at all in order to have more room in my inventory. Because even if I could see what's swimming around me in the darkness, why would I want to? But Lumo, doesn't the dark threaten to dramatically increase your panic meter? Why, yes, inquisitive viewer, it does. But ultimately, does the entrepreneurial spirit not consist mainly in sacrificing short-term sanity for long-term profit? When I say ruthless efficiency, I mean memorizing which fish the cultists want ahead of time so that I can feed them consecutively and immediately unlock the upgrade book they're holding onto. Ruthless efficiency means spamming left-click through NPC dialogue, giving the locals the impression that I am a schizophrenic crackhead helping them with their errands purely to fuel my addiction. Ruthless efficiency, as in upgrading the boat's hull so quickly the menus can't handle it. Ruthless efficiency, as in finishing the game in under 100 days and still not being satisfied. I'm talking about enjoying an utterly broken circadian rhythm and getting the bare minimum amount of sleep necessary to quell my visions of voracious fish, using arcane incantations to ward off the demons on my tail, and autistically cataloging the precise location of rare fish spawns, giving my map the appearance of having been chimpishly vandalized by a toddler who came into possession of too many stickers for his own good. It was only on my second playthrough that I realized there was an order to the quests I was given, dictated by the whims of the collector. And if I'm to beat this in as short a time frame as possible, going with the flow is not a bad idea. As soon as I unlock the Dredge crane, I head round back of the Greater Marrow to net myself the Tendril key, which, upon returning to the collector, unlocks Haste. Next, he marks the Gale Cliffs. There, only after completing the Whaler quest and unlocking packed explosives can I find the music box in order to unlock Manifest, which is basically teleportation. The in-game description suggests using it means huffing some cosmic Zaza and zoning out while I autopilot myself back to Blackstone Isle, but every time I use it, the clock does not move an inch. This is just the start of the alchemical tricks we'll be employing to raise our bottom line, but it's worth remembering, every ability used contributes to panic. Even haste. That's right, whatever we're doing to run these engines into overdrive is doing the same to my mental instability. But it's okay. I've long given up on the idea that these nightmares are in the slightest sense avoidable. Moving right along, I'm off to Stellar Basin, where the cosplayer grants me abyssal fishing tools, necessary for catching newer, deeper-dwelling species and broadening my stock variety. After using the repulsion machine to quell the beast lurking beneath, we're able to dredge up the collector's ring and trade it in for Banish, an ability which temporarily wards off the demon fish. So temporarily that I have, on several occasions, been caught with my pants down while the threat at hand has moved a grand total of 15 feet away, and all I accomplished was delaying its din-dins. Next up is the Twisted Strand, where I'll help a fellow gamer in need. He holds a grudge against the local mind suckers for devouring his squad mates, and I need the necklace currently residing in their intestines. He needs bait for the traps he's strategically positioned around the mangrove, and I need heavy artillery to dispatch of the mind suckers. Our goals align, and my crab stock is through the roof, holy shit. I collect the fish, he makes the bait. I load the traps, he fires the mortar. This is, perhaps, the greatest trade deal in the history of trade deals. We successfully locate the necklace among the charred entrails of the minesuckers, and I teleport back to Blackstone Isle to deliver it. This relic nets us atrophy, literal black magic by which entire shoals of fish can be instantaneously transported into my cargo. If it wasn't already clear that we're playing with bad juju, then this should relieve you of any illusions of ethical fishing practices. Finally, I venture to the Devil's Spine, likely named so because of the distinct smell of sulfur and ominous tone of hellfire orange that engulfs the region. I thought navigating the winding swamplands of the Twisted Strand was annoying, but this place is not only peppered with the protruding ruins of an ancient ritual site, but the fauna here are attracted to my engines like lemmings to a cliff, and the more of them swarm the boat, the slower I move. And if, for whatever reason, Banish is on cooldown, I have no means of escape. No method by which I can speed up, even with haste, leaving my tender, wooden posterior vulnerable for violation by Satan's pet goldfish. If you'd like to begin the Ironhaven Rig questline at any point between these regions, you can. However, the time it takes to complete their objectives distracts from the time it takes to collect all 5 relics. The only reason you'd want to engage with some of the rig quests would be in order to unlock the upgraded spyglass, which allows you to mark fishing spots on your map just by looking at them. I cannot express how useful this is for fulfilling the cultist requests, since they could ask you to bring them a fish you last saw hours ago, and even if you went hunting where you thought you found them, you'd probably be wrong. This is an invaluable tool if you're trying to collect all the specimens the Grey Isles have to offer, but it doesn't get you any closer to finishing the game in a timely manner. So I, still seeking ruthless efficiency, choose to sacrifice quality of life for profit once more. As for the rest of the rig quest line, it does grant you access to the Tier 5 hull upgrade, which is great for storage capacity and damage mitigation, but takes far too much time to warrant completion during a speedrun. The upgrades the tech lab provides can be nifty for a slight speed boost, but overall, the rig is best left as either a neat endgame expansion or something to bolster the activities you'll be doing as part of the main story. And if nothing else, this DLC is worth it just for the scientist quest line. His job's a little more than fetch quests, but each time you provide him the contaminated samples he wants, it's clear his interest in them is more than simply academic. Much like the other inhabitants of the Grey Isles, he's inexplicably drawn to consuming the aberrants we give him, and watching his gradual, disturbing transformation into a half-fish abomination is downright entertaining. But apparently, I'm the only one who noticed his descent into a fish frenzy, since no one else acknowledges that this even happened. After he jumps ship, the other rig workers go on as though he never existed. That is the level of locked in this game requires. Even the NPCs are oblivious to the nightmares next door. It's the same deal with the other DLC. You could venture down to the Pale Reach whenever you want to, or not. It's totally peripheral to the main game. Oh, that's a new one. Back to the Devil's Spine, I met a friendly 4chan frequenter who clarified the final relics quest for me. Only after sacrificing unique fish specimens to altars scattered around the volcanic islands can I unlock the blue flames required for progressing. Although this is the final region in narrative order, being brave enough to come here early game means unlocking two of the most powerful equipment pieces for the whole rest of your playthrough. Sacrificing aberrant fish unlocks the Encrusted Talisman, a neat little tool for increasing mutant fish drop rates, and dredging up stone tablets allows you to unlock an ancient ritual chamber holding the Flame of the Sky, the most powerful light in the game, and it doesn't cost a cent. However, both of these gear pieces take up precious cargo space, and early on I cannot imagine how the Encrusted Talisman is anything other than a status symbol. And since this is a solo grind, I have no need of such frivolities. So, I'm just going to take these blue flames to the ceremony site, do nothing as I watch this man burn himself alive amid statues of ominously cloaked figures, and proceed to sift through his ashes in order to find the collector's pocket watch. Retrieving these 5 relics is the ultimate goal of the game, before which the ending cutscene cannot be viewed. Meaning, I've just finished the game in 46 days. I dare you to try to beat my time. I'd like to see you try. There's really not much bad to say about Dredge. It is a genuinely inspired and elegantly simple experience. If I had to give it some criticism though, the Pale Reach feels like an afterthought. This game excels at offering the player freedom of choice in how and when you approach objectives, but also enjoyably weaves together all the quests and environmental elements of the main game. It's only the Pale Reach, the polar expanse far to the south of the map, that can be played completely in isolation. For new players, I'd recommend completing its objectives as soon as possible since the reward is somewhat of an alternative to the manifest ability, and the story at play provides a good tease for what the rest of the game has to offer. For experienced players, however, the Pale Reach is entirely superfluous and really just offers an isolated mission chain that has no bearing on the rest of the game. Plus, trying to complete the quests while Narwhalthotep is chasing you would be far tenser before you've unlocked Banish and more powerful engines. And my biggest complaint would have to be the item wheel. It wouldn't be such a problem if haste could be bound to its own button, but having to swap between a speed buff, manifest, lights, the spyglass, and the crab pots all on the same wheel gets old fast. As for the story playing out behind the scenes, I was pleasantly surprised at how it not only gelled with the game mechanics and informed the aberrations I caught, but also meaningfully incorporated Lovecraftian elements of madness and occultism. After having collected enough relics, a new NPC will be available to talk to on a small island in the southeast of the map. It's the Old Mayor, a man who's become a local folktale, infamous for raving nonsensically and scaring children away from the fog. He tells us about a silver and crimson book. The very same book the collector has been using to grant us our arcane abilities. Throw it back, he repeats, before sinking back into his melancholic malaise. I've already collected all the relics, I've completed all available quests. Maybe entertaining some of the NPCs for longer than it takes to exploit them for their loot would be worth it now. I return to Blackstone Isle once more, intent on getting answers. I ask the collector about his book and he obfuscates. I press him on the issue and he continues to deflect, implying some history between myself and an unknown woman. Knowing any such relationship to be an impossibility, I demand he hand over the book and my advance is reciprocated in kind. I've had enough of these games. Striking the collector in order to take the book by force, I'm confronted with a shocking truth for the very first time. That was my only mirror. Desperate to recoup my losses, I rush over to the Greater Marrow where the lighthouse keeper informs me of the book's significance. Accepting, only momentarily, that this may be more important than replacing that mirror, it was an antique, I heed the old woman's warning and wait for nightfall. Now, venturing out into that accursed fog for what may be the last time, I'm presented with a choice. The collector told me that returning the music box, with all of its contents, to the abyss below would reunite me with the woman I once loved, but whose memory has been wrenched from my mind by supernatural means. The old mayor and the lighthouse keeper insisted, however, that I should toss the book into the water. On one hand, a splinter of my own psyche promises me a meeting with an actual female, and, on the other, some senile strangers are telling me to part with the book, without which I could not have achieved such success in my business. I make the only logical choice, and embrace my fate with open arms.